cast of Discovery Channel's returning series, Storm Chasers.
Okay, we've got our market reporters. They're standing by at the NYSE, the NASDAQ, the NYMEX, and the CME Group. Let's start with Bob Pisani down here on the floor. Hi again, Bob.
Good morning. And that IMF meeting produced nothing about resolving some of the tensions around the currency issues. So basically, dollar trend, sell the dollar continues. And right now, we're moving here, but it looks like the path of least resistance is on the upside. That's what most traders seem to be telling me this morning. So that's largely because of the perceptions of QE2, of quantitative easing coming or potentially coming. The question is, how much of quantitative easing is really priced into the market right now, and is it actually going to work? That's what we don't know. But again, path of least resistance on the upside. A lot of talk in terms of individual stocks about this big investment by a Chinese company in U.S. onshore reserves, and that's CNOOC, the big Chinese energy giant, investing with Chesapeake Energy in their project in the Texas shale. $1.08 billion. The important thing here is CNOOC is just investing capital. They're not buying anything. They're investing in the company itself. We also had very good movement today in all the solar companies. They're up 7, 8, 9%. LDK Solar announced that their shipments were greater than expected overall. They raised their third quarter revenue outlook. So everything in this group, SunTech Power, First Solar, all of them are on the upside here today. TraderTalk.cnbc.com for more. Mandy, back to you.
Okay, Bob, thanks for that. Well, this just in, Gymboree Corp shares up 30%. The company is being bought by Bain Capital, and we have more details on the terms. We'll, of course, bring them to you. Let's get out to Bertha Coombs now with the NASDAQ. What's happening over in your patch, Bertha?
Well, Mandy, we've got a nice positive start above 2,400 here on the NASDAQ. You're looking at Gymboree, not sure why, but let's start you off with the smartphones. Of course, Jim Ford will be covering that unveiling of Microsoft's Windows 7, trying to go after the Google Android market and, of course, the Apple market. Apple starting off at a fresh new high. Demand so strong for the iPhone 4 in China that they've had to limit pre-orders now to just one per person.
For example, is down. But look at heating oil. It looks like it's going to, or excuse me, crude. It's going to hold 82, at least in the short term here, but it's still slightly weaker here today. And then over in Europe, where if you look at the Brent crude contract, it is also down more than 50 cents right now. And this with that French port.
Right. State attorneys general across the nation expected to launch an investigation into mortgage lenders after their foreclosure documents. This after a number of banks announced they would suspend foreclosure sales in all 50 states. CNBC's Diana Olick in Washington on the ramifications for home buyers and the housing market. Diana.
Well, Scott, the ripple effect of the robo-signing foreclosure scandal is already being felt in the housing market. 1/4 of all home sales in August were foreclosures. 1/3 were distressed properties, that is foreclosures plus short sales. Now the buyer
unit, and I move into a unit and I furnish it and I pay money to fix it up or what have you. And then my gravest concern is, after all is said and done, is a deal really a deal? Or will I be told in some letter or phone call that there's a glitch with the paperwork and the closing is not valid?
Now, Michelle Salem was supposed to close on and you could see something of a bottom on general home prices. But remember, these foreclosures will likely all happen at some point down the road. Scott?
Okay, Diana Olick, thank you so much. Is a national moratorium on foreclosures.
Okay, Jim and Kelly, thank you very much for your thoughts on the subject. We'll bring you more on that subject later on in the show.
And let's get more on that story we updated you on just a few moments ago. That is Bain Capital's acquisition of Gymboree. The stock is up big right now pre-market. You see it right there. Gymboree up 30%. David Faber back at HQ with more on that. Hi, David.
Hey, Scott. Yeah, you know, interesting, of course, to note the size of this transaction. Right in the sweet spot, it would appear, where private equity is once again playing in a fairly significant way in our merger and acquisition markets. $1.8 billion price tag, as you say. Of course, there had already been reports that Gymboree was for sale, that it was potentially going to be the recipient of a takeout proposal and or potentially a deal. And so the stock had already moved up. But the premium paid here on the affected stock price was still a very significant one. We're talking about 23.5% off of the close on Friday. So if you had read reports of the rumors and gotten into this stock, you would be rewarded today with this deal. Again, Bain paying that very big price, $65.40 or 1.8. Nonetheless, they do have that 40-day. It almost is a standard now when you see a private equity deal. Of course, a lot of happy shareholders there for Gymboree today. Bain, private equity, taking that retailer private.
Yeah, David, you mentioned how the stock was running up in anticipation.
And for guns because of worries about gun control. But in the activity itself, participation itself within hunting because of the recession.
which companies are more likely to benefit in this kind of environment? Pure play hunting companies such as the Cabela's, which you have a buy on, or do you...
The stores.
Can you extrapolate then, David, as the economy begins to recover more noticeably? Do you think that these hunting-related stocks might start to underperform?
Well, I think, psychologically, you could see that. This is being seen right now as a defensive trend. I think the retailers would tell you that a lot of what they sell in the hunting area, namely the guns and ammunition, is not the highest margin of their product.
Matt Nesto is out at the NYMEX. So today I have your stocks to watch. Warnaco Group, third quarter estimates raised at Wells Fargo. The firm believes product launches for the fall are tracking strongly. They also expect the company to raise full-year guidance. Shares are up about 9% over the course of the last week. And Costco downgraded to underperform from market perform at BMO Capital Markets. The firm cutting the price target to $55 from $58, citing the potential for disappointing same-store sales in 2011. And Family Dollar added to the key calls list at UBS. The firm has a buy rating on the stock with a $54 price target. Scott?
And Mandy, it's street cap time. DineEquity has announced plans to sell 56 company-owned Applebee's restaurants in Missouri, Virginia, and Illinois in an effort to...
But there's more. Private companies control who buys and who sells. A few play a role in setting prices. And no 10Ks here. Companies decide what information to disclose and have 30 days to buy back shares from investors at the purchase price. So what's driving investors to second market?
There's been a very weak exit environment. Venture capital firms typically invest and expect to sell out their interest in 4, 5, 6 years through an IPO or through a sale. But now it's taking over 10 years to go public.
With no sign of IPOs from Facebook or Twitter, exchanges like Second Market allow investors to bet on the next 500 million users.
Second Market is not the only company in this space. Another company called SharesPost came on the private company scene in June 2009, though they are much smaller. Mandy, we'll have to see if interest in Second Market can continue to grow while the IPO market starts to strengthen again. Back over to you.
Okay, Julia, thank you very much for that. Well, that was Julia Boston reporting live from L.A. In the next half hour, we're going to be talking a little bit more about MortgageGate. It's not just a mortgage mess now, it's MortgageGate.
Everything gets a gate at the end of it, which I'm sure you're finding out.
If it's reached critical mass in terms of its importance. Okay, so we're going to be debating whether or not it's going to lead to another big drop in the housing market.
Plus, a new round in the fight over the dangers of driving and texting or making calls. The landscape on this may be about to change in a big way. And tell us where you stand. Go vote. SOTS.cnbc.com. Should the government ban cell phones and texting for drivers? Yes, ban it all. It's too dangerous. Or no, don't ban it. Leave it alone.
Now we've got two people on both sides of the coin coming up to debate it as well.
We do.